One of the biggest problems with the problem is that most leaders don't know it's a problem. I kind of sound like Dr. Seuss, but this is true. The big problem is people don't know this is a problem. And if they do recognize the problem, they usually don't care until it's almost too late or too difficult to solve. So, what is the problem? Here is the problem, and it's a big problem. The problem is the odds are low that what you're leading will last. Let me say it again. The odds, they're very low that whatever you're leading now will last for years and years to come. Now, how's that for a downer way to start a podcast? It's not fun, but it's absolutely true. Whatever you're doing now that's working, it is less likely to work in the hands of future generations. And this is well documented in business and in families who've worked hard to create wealth. Let's talk about it today in terms of what I'm going to call generations. Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3. We're going to talk about it in terms of generations. I'm not referring to Gen Z and millennials and Gen X and boomers and such. I'm not talking about age. What I'm talking about is mindset. And we're going to look at 3 different generations when it comes to leading an organization. And let's talk first of all about Gen 1. Who is Gen 1? Gen 1 would be the leaders who build the business from the ground up, build the church, start the nonprofit. They are the first generation leaders that build something special. That's Gen 1. Then there are some of you, you're Gen 2. You entered the business or you entered the nonprofit relatively early and you got to see some of what it took to build it. You contributed to it, but you didn't start it. You're not Gen 1, you're Gen 2. Then there's Gen 3. Over time, most people in most older organizations are Gen 3 or Gen 4. They entered late and they didn't have the blessings of seeing what it took to actually build the organization. Gen 1 starts it, Gen 2 comes in a little later and appreciates it. Gen 3 comes in even later and doesn't necessarily understand what it took to get there, but they come in with a lot of blessings. Now, why are we talking about this? What is the problem? Well, the bad news is that only 12% of businesses make it to the 3rd generation. I want you to think about this. Whatever you're building today, the odds are very, very low that your business will even survive to the 3rd generation of leaders. And it gets even worse in the 4th generation. Only 4% of businesses make it to the 4th generation. And that's why I'm not happy to tell you, but I'm telling you, the odds are low that what you're leading will last. The same is true with families that create wealth. Generally speaking, wealth disappears by the 3rd generation and is gone forever. Now, I'm a pastor. I don't lead a business. I lead a church. And the good news for those of you that are pastors is that churches tend to last. They're really hard to kill. Even someone that probably should be gone, they just gotta hang on forever. That's the good news. The bad news is that most don't tend to thrive for multiple generations. They don't. What typically happens is a church will start and it will thrive under a founding leader for 10 or 12 years, and then it tends to flatten out or even decline over time. So, if the odds are against us, what are we gonna do to defeat the odds? What I want to do to give you kind of a foundation is I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and then we're going to go into depth to increase our understanding. 2 questions. Question number 1 is this: what generation are you? What gen are you? Question number 2 is, what generation do you want to be? Because I'm going to try to help you understand that you actually get to decide. I'll try to illustrate it from a family perspective. You might say, as a Groeschel, which gen are you? And I would say it depends on my starting point of measurement. For example, my name, Groeschel, it's actually a German name. It should be pronounced Groeschel. And if you said, what gen are you? Well, of all the Groeschels I've known, I'm Gen 3. I knew my dad and I knew his dad, and so I'm Gen 3. Of those that are living now, because my dad recently passed away, I'm Gen 1. So which gen am I? Well, it depends on your starting point. And what I want to show you, and I hope that you'll become Gen 1 in several areas of life. You might be Gen 1 as a Christian. You might be the first committed follower of Jesus in your family, creating a spiritual legacy, and so you are a Gen 1 believer. Or you might be the first one in your family to go into ministry, so you're Gen 1 in ministry. Or you might be the first one to graduate from college, you're Gen 1 in education. Or you might be the first not to divorce in your family. You're a Gen 1 marriage, creating a marriage legacy. You might be the first to break a long line of addictions in your family. You're Gen 1 sober. You might be the first to be debt-free in your family. You're Gen 1 in wealth creation and distribution, creating a culture of generosity. You might be Gen 1 somewhere, and I'm honored by the grace of God to be Gen 1 in all those areas that I just mentioned. And this is what I want you to understand, is the great thing about Gen 1 is that you get to decide, you get to choose which gen you are, because it's not just about when you enter, but it's about how you think. So what I want to do is talk about how you think. Let's talk about the qualities, or what I might say, the mindsets of the different generations. What gen are you, and what gen do you want to be? Because you can decide. If you build something special, you're Gen 1. If you take what's built and you protect it, that's a Gen 2 mindset. If you take whatever's built and you enjoy it or you squander it, that's a Gen 3 mindset. If, on the other hand, you may be Gen 3 and you can take what's built and you can see it as a foundation to do so much more, way more, and you're willing to sacrifice and take risks and defy the odds, suddenly you have Gen 3 resources with a Gen 1 mindset. You're an owner. And I've taken a long journey to get to this one big thought, and I want to give you this thought. This is so important. Are you ready? You can't change when you enter, but you can change how you think. It doesn't matter at what point in the organization you enter. If you think like a builder, you can be at any point with a builder, a Gen 1 mindset. Gen 1, the question is, do you want to keep it and control it, or do you want to continue to build it? Gen 2, the question is, do you want to guard it and protect it, or do you want to continue to build it? Gen 3, do you want to enjoy it and squander it, or do you want to continue to build it? The one mindset you need for success is a Gen 1 builder's mindset. Problem is, the odds are still low that what you're leading will last unless you pass this mindset on to future generations. I want to say it one more time, the bad news. I want you to hear it and feel it, because what you're leading matters to you so much. And the odds are against you. The odds are low that what you're leading will last. But here's the good news. You're a leader, and leaders don't follow the odds. What kind of leader are you? You're an odd-breaking, Gen 1 thinking, future-building leader. That's what you are. You're an odd breaker. You don't need to let other people tell you what the odds are. You defy the odds. You're a Gen 1 thinking, future-building leader. You're not preserving. You're not squandering. You're building, because that's what leaders do. No matter where you enter, I want to encourage you to think Gen 1. Take risks. Be bold. Be daring. Defy the odds. Innovate. Create. Do more than others believe are possible. When you get criticized, just realize that's part of the battle, and keep on building, because that's what great leaders do.